we've got through the D and the D. We've talked about decision making. We've talked about due diligence. But now the part that everybody wants to talk about, right? it's the money, right? And so, you know, it's very interesting because from a financial literacy, financial management perspective, Courtney, I know that you see folks at all levels. And so you've got the basic kind of entry level financial literacy, you know, what is a stock and what is a bond, or what is checking versus saving versus charge card, credit card, whatever that might be. But then you've got the more complex, advanced levels of financial management. And both of these are needed when an athlete is considering opportunities that are presented to themselves. So how do you kind of even walk people through this? How do you help them understand kind of the breadth of financial understanding that they need to be successful in these environments?
Well, the first thing we do is work with the individual school to see what resources they already have, because we're not looking to come in and completely start over and reinvent any wheels around money, because every program tries hard with these student athletes to educate them. So we assess what programs are in place and don't look to usurp those programs, but to come in and complement them and enhance the overall education for the student athletes. So it generally will break down into two broad issues: basic financial literacy, which includes everything from banking to budgeting to, you know, balancing a checkbook, monitoring, and then financial advisor due diligence, which is what we spoke about before. Obviously, our expertise is in finance. We help with due diligence of all outside professionals, but specifically with financial advisors. I was one for over 25 years, and as you said, worked with people at all levels, from professional athletes to multi-billionaires. And so the issues are the same, the complexities change. So we always start with, akin to REAP, our formula for success, which is a similar repeatable process: strategize, innovate, execute. You always have to have a plan. You don't step on the field or the court or the track without a plan. Don't know about you, but I always experience that plans never go according to plan. So you need to step back and readjust, innovate. Everybody loves that word. Everybody loves to talk about innovating. All it means is doing something differently. And then you execute. And similar to what we talked about before with REAP, where you can actually help them recall when they've actually practiced REAP, i.e. deciding what school to go to. Our student athletes, when we're working with them, realize that strategize, innovate, execute is something they do every day. And it's just now going to need to be applied to money. So not only is it a repeatable process, but we also teach them it has to be part of their daily habit. If we're teaching them budgeting, it has to be part of their daily habit. They don't get better at their sport if they're not practicing daily. They don't get better and they don't get stronger without the right nutrition, without the right conditioning, without the right rest. So anything related to money is also a daily habit. We make sure that we talk about what are their goals, short-term, long-term. All financial decisions should be tied to goals, period. So if they haven't taken a look at themselves in that critical due diligence of self process, they need to now, because creating a plan for money around self, around family, has to be tied to goals. So we do a lot with goal setting. So many pieces of money these student athletes have never seen before. Some of them have never paid taxes. Some of them don't understand how interest works. They may understand the tiny little bit of interest they see in their checking account, but they may not have seen a credit card bill yet. So we talk to them about good interest, bad interest. We talk about financial aid implications. Those that are not full scholarship. What does that look like 5 years, 10 years down the road? And maybe that becomes something that's tied to a goal, and to a goal around NIL, to make sure that they are not in a place where they're really struggling because of financial aid during school. So it's those broad areas. It always goes back to the repeatable process, which tends to almost oversimplify it when we're talking about it. But as they practice it and they realize how they apply it, and it becomes, they truly start to compete with themselves. They check their balances. Those balances are going up, and they have a budget, and they're checking if they're meeting that budget, or if they're exceeding their goals or not meeting their goals. And it just becomes part of life, and that's what money needs to be, especially in the age of name, image, and likeness, because back to that whole element of time management, if it's not part of their daily routine, they're not going to have time to do it. So, I think, again, always trying to oversimplify, but I think it's so important, our collective collaboration of DDMC, and, not just the decision-making, but then applying that decision-making to due diligence, and then talking about that money concept, making as many relatable processes able to apply to that money concept, teaching them to apply it to the money concept, meeting them where they are, whether it's the school and what programs they have, or what the student athletes know or don't know. We don't want to waste time and review concepts that they might already know. We want to join them where they are and help them apply all these concepts in a practical way every day. So that's money in a tiny little nutshell, and way over simplified, but to answer your question, explain a little bit how we approach it, how we talk about it, how we teach it. It's always incredibly engaging, whether it's virtual or in person. And then that follow-up to make sure that those daily habits are happening. So now that I have finished my most exciting part of DDMC, the money part,